What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? Something like, "She's too old for this. I'm not going to carry her up to bed anymore." And that was the last time I was magically transported from the living room couch to my bedroom. My mom on a payphone, begging her boyfriend for more heroin. I was a camp counselor. Two girls very much like to make hot or not lists. One of them suggested a male counselor was hot, and the other said he was saying mean things about me behind my back, which made him not hot. Hurt to hear that from my campers, but glad they supported me. My mom having an affair with her fiancé's best friend, who was married, in the same room that I was sleeping in. I was like 10 years old. My family were staying at a friend's house and had to share a room. My dad comes to bed hammered and says to my mom something along the lines of, "Does it impress you that I'm this drunk and can still perform?" I actually wanted to die. My mom and aunt talking, thinking 10-year-old me was asleep. And little runs _n_goses is so cute. Mom, no, he's not very good looking at all. My dad and stepmom was having a foursome with a couple of their friends. We were at a summer house and they did it in the living room. I felt so uncomfortable eating breakfast the next day. My then stepmom's nephews talking about what they would do to me sexually if given the chance. I was 14. They were 17, 19 and 21. Thankfully the window to the motorhome was slightly open, and my dad heard the entire thing. I was scared of boys for a long time after that. When I was a wee tot, I pretended to be asleep in the family room so I wouldn't have to actually go to VED, and once my parents were distracted, I could keep watching TV. I then got to hear my dad proposition my mom for couch sex. It's been many years so I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of hop on pop. Probably the funniest was on a camping trip with the boys. I have sleep apnea and use a CPAP machine. I overheard a couple of my mates talking about smoking a joint and hotboxing me through the air intake of my CPAP machine. Room full of people talking about how they didn't like me. Included friends and family members. My mom being raped by her abusive husband. It was on a bunk bed and me and my brother were on the top bunk silently crying. I don't talk about it much but it sticks with me. Had a bunk bed in college and one night my girlfriend and I woke up to my roommate banging some chick on the top bunk. My girlfriend asked me what we should do and I just mumbled just go back to sleep because I figured saying something to them at the moment would make things much more awkward. He still doesn't know. When I was around 8 years old I was supposed to be asleep but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs and cried myself to sleep. Good times. My walls were thin. I could hear almost anything. My parents argued in what they thought was a quiet voice about divorce. Then my dad says you can keep the kid. He annoys the F and dollar out of me. The next week they told me and signed the papers. When I was like 10 or 11 I visited my dad and while we were watching a movie I tried to fall asleep and I proceeded to hear him duck his GF on the bed I was trying to sleep and when I woke up all I saw was clothes on the floor. I don't know why I didn't just get up and leave but at least I fell asleep before it really started. Roommate's boyfriend and his friend came into my room when they thought I was asleep. It was warm and I was sleeping naked with minimal blanket coverage. I froze and pretended to sleep. They proceeded to talk about my body and how it was anyone's type. Also how easily it was to drug ladies these days. Oh, and also the friend talked about how easy it would be to steal/sell my boyfriend's boat motor that he had stored in the room. Yes, so they were kicked out and friend became an ex-friend because she was pissed I'd let my boyfriend kick them out. Dude, just do it. It's not like she'll remember. She's asleep, it's okay to touch her last night. Nope, out of there so ducking quick. Found out my dad's best friend died. They have been friends since they were literally 5 years old. Went to the same schools. Stayed best friends for 50 years. when he became an alcoholic and cut off contact with everybody. My dad still reached out to him multiple times even though he obviously wasn't ready. He eventually got off the drink and they became really close again and were calling each other every day. I woke up to the phone ringing and my dad looking at it and immediately saying to my mom, "Oh God, I think he's dead." He knew that she only called when something bad was up and he had been hospitalized multiple times because of his drinking. I remember saying on a post years ago that I dread to think of the day that his best friend died because I knew it was coming soon because of his past. My dad is old and is the type of guy who just wants a chat. And I know a lot of people he talks to don't want to do that. Anyway, I heard it all unfold and pretended to sleep because I just did not know what to say. I couldn't imagine losing a best friend for that long. I sat in my bed for hours thinking about it but just laying still. I didn't fully process it until I went to work and I spent nearly 2 hours crying in the toilets. That was the only time I cried in my adult life. I was in trade school in a different city than my hometown. So I was staying at my in-laws' home. My wife's dad was away for the weekend and I noticed her mom was wearing fancy dresses. She's a very beautiful woman, often mistaken for my wife's sister. She also seemed extra giddy before she would go out for the evenings. On the evening my father-in-law got home. I was in my room studying when I heard him yell at the top of his lungs, "So you F the guy?" I can only assume she felt guilty and told him since it was soon after he go home. Anyways, he was yelling at her for most of the night and I heard lots of crying from both of them. I heard some pretty terrible things. They are both very nice people and it was sad to hear them on their worst night. They've stayed together and it looks like they are fighting to make their marriage work. My father-in-law was very cold, distant, and angry for a couple of years. But they seemed to be warm towards each other again. Also, the following morning they apologized for all the noise they made and I told them I was just listening to music. While I was undergoing anesthesia for surgery but not quite out, I felt my gown being removed by the surgical team. As soon as my top was exposed, I heard a male voice say, "Wow, she's really developed." I was 14. Probably my dad's dementia screaming. Usually nothing is wrong. But he'll wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to yell at God and grind his teeth. You never do get used to it. I was doing it all-nighter with the boys, gaming of course. I fell asleep at some point playing Minecraft Creative. And woke up to how often do you guys pleasure yourselves? Come on. He's asleep. Okay. Fine. I'll do it. But how do I suck it? Like just let it go in your mouth and stroke it with your tongue? Well, I'll try. Oh yeah. Choking noises, coughing, fuck you. While in kindergarten, I heard the teacher talking on her phone and saying that she doesn't feel comfortable having an Indian kid in her class. At the time I didn't understand why she hated me, but now I know. I remember reading a response a few years ago on AskReddit with the same type of question. This one guy woke up in the middle of the night at his friend's bachelor's party. And the groom was giving a blowjob to the best man while everyone was asleep. My mom telling my dad she had an affair with another guy and that she wanted a divorce. That was 2 months ago. When I was 12 I was staying with my aunt and cousins for a few weeks during summer. My male cousin was 4 years older than me. One night I was laying down in the loft, my sleeping quarters for the trip, and my cousin came home late with a friend. They came up to the loft, where they would normally hang out, and began talking. The friend noticed that I was asleep, asked my cousin if he could touch me. There was a whole back and forth about it. But in the end my cousin agreed to let him. His friend then proceeded to touch me. I was terrified, and pretended to stay asleep. After a moment I moved a bit and rolled over. Much like you would in your sleep. That was enough to get him to stop. I ducking hate that cousin to this day. So much things he could be. Cop killer. Nun rapist. That's what my father said the morning after I came out as gay. Ex-boyfriend's mom absolutely tearing me apart over the phone. Never met the woman, but she saw a picture of me with her son at a tailgate. She didn't like how blonde my hair was or how I smiled with a closed mouth. Needless to say I broke up soon after because her son wasn't a great person. Neighbor guy walking through the house with a couple of his friends showing them how we leave stuff laying around all the time and it was easy to steal things from us without us knowing.